Are you exhausted by the constant chatter in your head? What if the storm inside you was never chaos, but the power misunderstood, and the beginning of real strength? It's not because you're broken or weak. Chronic worry is simply a skills gap. You were never taught how to drive your own mind. Imagine being handed the keys to a high-performance race car without a single driving lesson. That's what most of us are doing with our brains. But today, that changes. We're going to install the mental operating system you never got, turning you from a passenger in your own head into a confident, skilled driver. So, let's get straight to the core of this. The ability to think about your thinking has fancy name metacognition, but it is the single most important skill you were never taught. It's stepping back and observing your thoughts instead of being swept away by them. Most people who struggle with chronic worry are fused with their thoughts. They believe every anxious thought is an urgent, factual message that demands immediate attention. Metacognition is what allows you to see a thought like, "What if I fail the presentation?" And instead of panicking, you can say, there's that familiar fear of failure thought. Interesting. You see the thought, you acknowledge it, but you don't have to obey it. This is the first step to freedom. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. This distinction is everything. It's the difference between being caught in a storm and watching the storm from a safe, sturdy house. For the rest of this video, we're going to build that house brick by brick. The first tool for your new mental operating system is managing your cognitive load. Think of your brain's working memory like the RAM on a computer. If you have too many tabs open, everything slows down and starts to crash. Chronic worry is like having 100 browser tabs open at once, all playing different videos. Your brain gets overwhelmed. It can't process anything effectively, which just creates more anxiety. So, how do we close some tabs? A powerful technique is the brain dump. Get a piece of paper or open a notes app and write down every single thing that is worrying you. No matter how small or silly it seems. Don't filter, just dump. This simple act externalizes the thoughts. It moves them from that limited, chaotic RAM of your working memory onto an external hard drive. Suddenly, they're not just swirling in your head anymore. They're on a list, organized and manageable. You can look at them objectively. You'll often find that once they're written down, half of them seem ridiculous, and the other half are actual problems you can now start planning to solve, one by one. This isn't about ignoring your worries. It's about giving your brain the space to actually think clearly about them. Next up is a game-changing concept called cognitive diffusion. If metacognition is noticing your thoughts, diffusion is unhooking from them. It's about creating space between you and your thoughts so they lose their power. Anxious thoughts get their strength by convincing you they are reality. Diffusion helps you see them for what they are, just words, images, and sensations passing through your mind. Here's a simple way to practice this. When a worrying thought pops up, like "I'm going to make a fool of myself," try rephrasing it. Say to yourself, "I'm having the thought that I'm going to make a fool of myself." See the difference? You're no longer stating it as a fact. You're labeling it as a mental event. You can even take it a step further. Imagine the thought written on a leaf floating down a stream, or on a cloud drifting across the sky. You're not fighting the thought or pushing it away. You're just letting it pass. Another fun one, say the worrying thought in a silly voice, or sing it to the tune of "Happy Birthday." "I'm going to mess this up completely." It sounds absurd, right? that is the point. It breaks the illusion of seriousness and helps your brain realize this thought is not a command from headquarters. It is just a noise. Now, let us talk about building your attention architecture. Where you place your attention determines your reality. Chronic worriers often have a default setting where their attention is magnetically pulled toward threats and negativity. It is like having a spotlight that only illuminates the scary things in the room. Attention architecture is about consciously deciding where you point that spotlight. This is a trainable skill. One of the best exercises is the simple 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. When you feel your mind spiraling, pause. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This forces your attention out of the chaotic future in your head into the calm reality of the present moment. It's a manual override for your focus. Another powerful strategy is attentional scheduling. Designate a specific, limited time for worrying. For example, you might decide that from 5 o'clock to 5:15 p.m. every day, you are allowed to worry as much as you want. When a worry pops up outside of that time, you gently tell yourself, "Not now. I'll deal with you at 5 o'clock. This is not a suppression. It is scheduling. It puts you back in control of your time and your focus, teaching your brain that you decide when it's time to worry, not the other way around. To make these skills stick, we need to build proactive habits. This is where if-then planning comes in. It's one of the most effective strategies for behavior change, and it works beautifully for managing your mind. Instead of just hoping you'll remember to use these techniques, you create a specific plan. The format is simple. If a trigger situation happens, then I will perform desired action. For example, if I start worrying about work in the middle of the night, then I will get up and do a 5-minute brain dump in my journal. Or, if I feel a wave of social anxiety before a meeting, then I will use the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. By creating these plans in advance, you are building an automatic response. You're preloading the solution so that when the trigger happens, you don't have to think. Your brain already knows the script. Write down 3 if-then plans for your most common worry triggers right now. This simple act of planning makes you exponentially more likely to follow through and turn these concepts into concrete skills. Finally, let's upgrade your emotional vocabulary with a skill called emotional granularity. Often when we feel bad, we just label the feeling as anxious or stressed. Emotional granularity is the ability to identify and label your feelings with more precision. Are you anxious, or are you feeling apprehensive, uncertain, vulnerable, or overwhelmed? Are you angry, or are you frustrated, disappointed, or feeling betrayed? Why does this matter? Because the more precisely you can name an emotion, the better your brain can figure out what to do about it. Naming disappointment leads to different solutions than naming betrayal. When you can say, "I'm not just anxious, I'm feeling unprepared," your brain can immediately switch to problem-solving mode. Okay, how can I prepare better? It moves you from a state of vague, overwhelming dread to a state of specific, actionable challenge. Start practicing this by asking yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Use a feelings wheel, which you can find online, to expand your vocabulary. The more words you have for your inner world, the more control you have over it. So, let's bring it all together. The solution to breaking free from the prison of chronic worry is not to try harder or to just think positive. It is to recognize that you have a skills gap and you need to start training. Remember, you were never taught how to manage your own mind, but you can learn. First, practice metacognition. Step back and observe your thoughts as separate from you. You are the sky, not the clouds. Second, manage your cognitive load. Use a brain dump to get worries out of your head and onto paper, freeing up mental space. Third, practice cognitive diffusion. Unhooked from your thoughts by labeling them, "I'm having the thought," or using creative techniques to see them as just mental noise. Fourth, build your attention architecture. Consciously direct your focus using grounding techniques and worry scheduling to decide what gets your mental spotlight. Fifth, use if-then planning. Create automatic, healthy responses to your specific worry triggers. And finally, develop emotional granularity. Get specific about what you're feeling to move from vague overwhelm to clear, actionable problem solving. This is not a quick fix. This is a practice, like learning an instrument or a sport. You will have days where you feel like you're failing, but every time you practice one of these skills, you are strengthening the neural pathways in your brain. You are literally rewiring your mind for peace and clarity. You are installing your new mental operating system, one conscious moment at a time. You have the capacity to do this. You just needed the instruction manual. Now you have it. Start practicing today. Thank you so much for investing this time in yourself. I would love to hear in the comments which one of these skills you are going to try first. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.